The last 3 times I came into New Zealand, I've spent an hour and a half at Biosecurity New Zealand shredding my luggage and stuff. The last time included my wife and kids. An hour and a half going through my papers. When I say papers, I'm meaning my private commercial documents. And now the police turn up here to go through our phones and our computers as if we're drug dealers because of a disease that is just in bees and doesn't affect humans at all and isn't even there because they say I haven't filled in paperwork. How could you do this to anybody? These people have no heart. They do not care. The police mocked my daughter while she sat in the corner crying. Mocked my daughter. It's disgusting. Your New Zealand police mocking miners crying as their place is being shredded. All because they're a beekeeper. And it's not to do with disease. This is to do whether or not there's paperwork about disease on my computer. It's not to do with the disease itself. It's about the paperwork of it and whether we've bought anything. Why would you do this to a person? What heartless person does this kind of stuff? Here we are, the police are finally leaving. They've been here for about 7 hours. They have gone through every container, my entire shed. The police and the management agency and Biosecurity New Zealand have stripped my place looking for some sort of hidden disease or paperwork that would show that I are not following the rules. Do you know anybody in New Zealand that for not filling in a piece of paper has police officers and math agents go through everything they own, seizing their phone and their computers like a criminal? They have threatened me that I could be charged with criminal offences for not handing on pieces of paper. What are they here for? Why are they doing this? Who are they? One of the people down here is a guy called Marco Gonzalez. They have run the New Zealand Pest Management Plan for 25 years. The disease is completely widespread. Why are they here? What are they doing?
Bronwyn Holm, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while now, but you've been so busy in your tour of South Australia. That piece that I sent you that we just saw, what would you say is the reaction of that food producer? To me, he looks like a man being absolutely bullied, and he's one of our food producers in New Zealand. It feels like the authorities are not honouring those who produce the food in our country. What would you say is going on there? And have you seen it in Australia?
Hi, Liz. That man, if you listen to his voice, he's absolutely traumatised. That poor man, 7 hours, they ransacked every single thing that he had. I'm talking about a property where they're going through all of his equipment, going through all of his stock over his whole property, and then they confiscate his phone, his laptop, and his computer gear. Why? For the life of me. And they've got to endure that. Now, he has to go to sleep that night. And I can tell you, there are farmers who are not going home at night. In Australia, we have 15 farmers. On average, I've been told this by reliable sources, they just don't go home. They can't face what's happening on their farms or what's going on in their laptops. Just can't face it.
What do you mean what's going on in their laptops?
Well, there's debt that's being called in. That's not necessary. That should never have to happen. Usually you have payment plans or whatever, but all of a sudden a lot of the farmers are asking, we need to have this debt paid out in full. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't have $250,000 to pay a cartel product range provider that kind of money. And they
you're saying the farmers are being asked to suddenly pay back huge amounts of money.
That's
which
right.
puts them under huge pressure. Then we have the authorities who no longer treat a man's land or a man's home as his castle. They say we can come in and do whatever we want, when we want, for as long as we want, however ghastly we want to make it on your land, on your private land. Something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. with
Yes,
these
Liz.
overreaching authorities. What are you seeing in Australia as far as that authoritarian and bureaucratic overreach?
This is going on. They are being arrested, taken off the property, and then the procedure of the biosecurity preventative actions is to put this poison all over the land. And there is a famous video that was done in the Gold Coast hinterland. I think it was the Gold Coast. I should find that for you because it's representative of this kind of bullying. She's about a 38-year-old, 40-year-old woman who owns just a small mini farm. She has about, what I was saying, about 3 or 4 cows. She just turned to the officers and said, "Let me get my cows out of the fields." That's all she wanted to do. And they refused to let her leave that spot. Now, Senator...
And wait a minute, and what did they do? They then went and sprayed with the cows in the field.
Absolutely. Now, this is poison that we know and have seen the evidence of that has killed everything in its wake. We have,
and would be terrible for the cow's milk, which retains poisons and then gets into the food supply. Let me just follow up on what you were going to say before. Senator Gerard Rennick, I was about to ask, are any of the senators, any of the politicians humane and defending the farmers and the people's rights to have their privacy not treated like this? Who's doing something?
Well, a lot of them not. So I ended up going to having a meeting with Gerard. He is all over it. He knows that footage. He knows what's going on. He makes it his business. He has, he's actually a farmer in the region, not far from there. He's a working farmer. He's a very good businessman as well. And he is actually doing something in between running for the elections right now.
Now, that's a key, Bron. You've got an election coming up in, 5 weeks. Who do you advise people vote for? Because there was a horrifying piece where a young, intelligent Aussie bloke simply questioned the current Prime Minister Albanese and said, people my age cannot afford housing and you're letting all these migrants in. And he was ushered out of the room as if he was a nothing, a nobody. He's a voter. He should be the one that the Prime Minister is listening to, deferring to and answering. And I think that's gone pretty viral around the world. It's disgusting. And immediately you look at that footage, Bron, and say, Albanese is not a fit Prime Minister for the people of Australia.
Mr Albanese, don't you think 1.8 million immigrants in 5 years is going to increase demand on the medical system? What about the fact that people my age can't get any housing, we can't get rentals anymore, we have no future in this country anymore? Don't you think that's kind of ridiculous? No? You can't touch me, mate. You know.
What do I do, young man?
No, I don't have anything.
This election will be a referendum on Medicare, and it will be a stark choice on tax as well.
You can't touch me, mate. You know. Everyone my age is stressed out. We're so terrified of the next 5 to 10 years. You understand that? Because we don't have any place to go. This is our land. This is our country. You understand that? And those people in there are robbing us of our future.
Is the opposition any better?
Well, what's happening over here is there's a big push for the independents. We call them the Magnificent Seven. And they truly are in their own right, and they all have strengths in their own fields, and they have proven themselves across the board in their particular key interests. Of course, we've just mentioned Gerard Rennick. We've got Rod Cullington, Craig Kelly, Mr O'Neill, and then you've got the trumpet of the Patriots. Now, I'm actually meeting one of the co-founders on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And I will be pulling out my Beaut Fantastic mobile phone and I'm going to do an interview for you, Liz, because I think we're at a time where we actually need to start looking at a different way of how we're going to live the rest of our lives. The reason why I say that, if any of your people, your audience, wants to go and look at UN2030agenda.org, you will find we've only got 5 years left of the life that we currently know. After that, we are in lockstep with everything that's on that agenda.
And Bron, we will put up here, in fact, we'll cut to it right now in this interview, a piece that we did where we translate these lovely sounding goals. They always use great language. You know, it's like Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand said, oh, let's be kind, and then went on to be brutal. So when they use the lovely words, they generally do the opposite. We've got the translation here. Stay with this, everybody, and look at what they have planned in 5 years or less for the people of the West. This is your Agenda 2030 if we don't stop these globalist puppet politicians. So, Bron, when you are traveling around Australia, are you finding that farmers, because this influences farmers hugely, or other Australian mums and dads coming from towns, are they aware of Agenda 2030? Because I don't think many New Zealanders are aware.
No, that's one of the things I actually bring up. That's their homework after my talks, because all the things that we're talking about, the targeting on these farmers, they do not want farmers. They do not want you to have a seed. I don't think people realise you won't be able to get a virgin seed. In some parts of Europe right now, you can be arrested and imprisoned for storing seed. And we're at this point where we do not even have control over our seed, our food. Our food now has been so bastardised that right not far from where I'm sitting, a little bit east, is a Middle Eastern company who's building this factory right now to have leafy greens submerged under pressure to absorb, like you squeeze and to squeeze into the cells of the plant mRNA substances and compounds, and you all know what that is. And then they come along a track, they go down, they're submerged under pressure, they breathe that in, and then they come out, and then they sit on these trays for like 3 days, and then they go out to the shops for us to eat. There's no labelling, don't know where this farm is, there's no reference on what you're buying. It's just a lettuce in a little plastic bag thing. And this is already happening in America. And for the life of me,
you're saying it's happening in Australia.
They're building the factory now.
This is horrifying. Where is the factory? Where is the factory?
I don't know exactly the area, but it's in the middle so you've got Adelaide that comes up and around and down, and it's like right in the middle of that biggest space. And that's where it's going.
Remote. It's remote where it won't be seen.
It's remote. Mm.
And people say to me, you can swap out the term mRNA for graphene oxide, because in effect what they're putting in there are these tiny, tiny, I don't know how we describe it, nanoparticles.
Yes.
You'll never see them with the visible eye, obviously, but once inside the body, they are capable of replicating. And there is now very clearly some link with all of the 5G towers that they rolled out at full-on pace when we were all locked in our houses. So this all goes back to the whole COVID-19, this pandemic, this whole thing has been planned in detail to try to get these nanoparticles into us, because potentially once they're in, there may be a way, they think, to control us. And this, it's such a dark agenda, Bron. When you're talking to people, do you have to be careful how far you take this? Because some people just tune out. They can't absorb how evil some human beings on this earth can be. And I'm going to name here Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab from the WEF. He's just resigned, but watch him. Where will he go now? But Bill Gates is behind a lot of this. Are people gobsmacked, Bron?
They are. And it's like they're hearing it for the first time. And I'm thinking, how can you not know this? We've been talking about this. And I think, there's biblical verses that say, those who can see will see, and those who can hear will hear, and 2 by 2 will walk and 1 will disappear. Well, that's clearly what's happening, because the people who are willing to open their minds this could be a possibility. Well, where's the research? Where do I find this? Well, it's all in plain sight. Everything is there. And people like you, Liz, and many others have been feeding the links. Everything I do, every article I write on my website, yourearthfood.com, all my articles on there, I don't just write for the sake of writing. They're all researched. They're all linked. There's links and links and links. Go and knock yourselves out. Have a look. GMO does not match with our DNA. Why? GMO food, which is all you're going to get, well, it's what we're getting now, actually ruins the DNA. When the DNA rebuilds itself with the tiny little fibres of itself, they don't align the way they used to. So right now, as our body totally rebuilds itself over a year, well, you might get new eyes every 2 months, you might get a new liver every 6 months and so on. But overall, a whole new body is repaired as new every year. Well, then if you've got a chink in your DNA, you've got a chink in something that's not, how it should be. And that comes from a GMO. GMO is not food. Food should be medicine. GMO is for destruction. And I don't think people get it. GMO without seeds, seedless pumpkins, seedless tomatoes, watermelon, lemons, grapes. Now we have potatoes with no eyes.
It's sick, sick food, and it's designed so we can't take our own food and grow our own food. I would say to everybody, while you can, collect seeds, organic seeds, as much as you can. Work with farmers. Go and see your local farmers. Say, can I rent a little plot of land so I can have a community garden here in the corner with a few of my friends? But it is horrifying. It's frankenfood. GMO, I'm sure most people know, but it's genetically modified organisms. Bron, I'm going to put a little reference here and send it to you for your Substack potentially to an article by Mary Hobbs that came out yesterday, one of our very good journalists here in New Zealand, talking about a bill called the Gene Technology Bill in New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand should be the food baskets for the world where we don't have genetically modified food because, unlike Europe, we don't share borders with any other countries. When this experiment goes horribly wrong, Australia and New Zealand could be the food baskets of the healthy seeds for the world to go back to non-GMO. This is like the COVID-19 jab. It will be shown to be an absolute disaster in future years, but they're rolling it out without telling the people what's going on, aren't they?
That's correct. Now, saying what you've just said, the food bowls of Australia. In fact, in different parts of North Queensland, we are the delicatessen bowl of the world.
Why do you say that?
We were focused for a while under different governments where we had unusual crops, for example, water lily seeds, which are incredibly nutritious. And farmers were wanting to try new crops, but the agronomists who were part of the banking cartel, they would only grow food they know that as that farmer would die off, they had a crop that they could sell to take over the land and continue the business. And often the farmer would work for them. So they'd put on wages and still run the farm, but they're working for the banks instead of their own farm for their own profits and their own generational inheritance and so on.
Your earthfood.com will really wake people up to Queensland, this beautiful potential food bowl for Australia and beyond, great export products for the world. What is happening?
We had this cyclone. Now, I want you to understand the size of this. We're talking about halfway down Queensland, right down to halfway down into New South Wales. That's 1,000 kilometres. We had 1,000 kilometres wall of water that went like this right across over the Great Dividing Range and way out to Quilpie. Now, Quilpie's famous for the opals and the miners out there. It's heading out towards the desert sort of thing. That was 800 kilometres. So you've got 1,000 kilometres by 800 kilometres. That's a wall of water. Now, I've been out of Queensland for nearly a month. It hasn't stopped raining there for that month. Out west, it is as far as you can see in Queensland, a lake. It's an ocean, literally. It's like looking out from the beach as far as you can see. Farmers have lost all their equipment, multi-million dollars worth of gear, trucks, harvesting gear, all of their shanks, all the things that they need to run a farm. They've lost all of their animals, their livestock. So there's a lot of beef farmers out there, beef cattle farmers, and wheat, the big heavy grains like the wheat, the oats, millet, and all of that is gone. We're talking about kangaroos who are swimming. We've got footage where there's only their head sticking out of the water and they're swimming. But if there's a joey in that pouch, that joey's dead. It's drowned. And they're trying to find somewhere it's like they're in the ocean. There's nowhere for them to go.
Because it's very flat land.
It's flat land.
And how many head of cattle do you think have been lost?
I don't really know, but we're talking like major losses.
I'm sure I would put money on the ABC reporting this, if they are reporting the full extent of it, as climate change and the fact that cows fart. Is that what they're doing? Is that how they're portraying this?
Well, look, the world's drying out, that's for sure, whether man-made or not. It doesn't matter. We've all got to do better. We all need to step up to do our little bit. But the point is that this is driven. This was actually done. I want to point out to people.
This was driven. What does that mean, Bron? Driven?
Well, we have evidence that there's laser treatment going on the clouds. Now, a cyclone normally is like a spirally thing, and it's got a tail at the end. This one had manipulated. We can see this, and I think Wade from Billboard Battalion, I've sent him footage, and he's putting something together and investigating and talking to politicians as he does. He will be talking about what is this big white blob in the middle sides of the cyclone. That's not a normal cyclone image. Now, I'm not a weather expert by any means. I'm just an observer. That's what I've observed. That's what he observed. And then we see these white lines going to that area. And
like
it's
flashes. Like flashes.
Yeah, like flashes. Yeah,
Wow.
like that. And I'm thinking, what is this thing? And the funny part was we were all watching this because it was coming down the coast and it went down, down, down. And it was almost like on remote control. Oops, missed Brisbane. Oh, we went up. Oops, missed Brisbane. Oh, there's Brisbane. I mean, cyclones don't do that, do they? I'm fine for someone to tell me they do, but I have never seen one, and we don't usually have cyclones down where we are. We're very south. And there is an image that came from BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology, which is a government agency.
It's an unfortunate name, BOM.
Bomb by name, bomb by nature. Anyway, we've got something like about, 18 cyclones around Australia this year as their prediction. What? Here's the thing, folks. Do you know what's in that 1,000 kilometres? All our food bowls. They're gone.
Yes.
We've lost the Lockyer Valley, the Brisbane Valley, the Riverlands, the Northern Rivers. That's where all of our, bananas, cherries, some citrus fruits, all of the Lockyer Valley is the root vegetables, the Asian greens, the millet crops. These are all gone.
This is horrifying.
Gone.
Well, a couple of years ago we had a massive cyclonic storm with very odd sounds of explosions up where the dam was, because the dam overran this fruit bowl valley in Hawke's Bay. And the oddest thing of all was the help was very much blocked from getting in to help these poor people. And even a year later, we went down 6 months later, there were just abandoned farms and houses everywhere, and volunteers were doing it. The government under Chris Hipkins did almost nothing. Let's look at that side of it. Is help being allowed to get in? Because if it's not, I think it ties in with the WEF Agenda 2030.
Well, Liz, Wade from Billboard Battalion and myself, we were instrumental in making a quick video, a call for help. Farmers have been screaming out they are desperately needing food for their livestock. There have been images of these animals just with their bones, so I came in a van and I drove to the desert lands, and then I went to the woodlands and the hills, and then we went to the vinelands, and here I am in the beach region. And I've been covering this whole thing and doing talks and educational material as well. The thing that came out of all of this was the South Australian Labor government has refused to help.
So tell us more about that. You mean farmers are lining up to help, and what?
So there's a couple of things happening all at the same time. I arrived in South Australia for one of my first talks, and this was up on the table straight away. We found that the farmers in the heading up towards the dry areas, and I think I have some footage of the area. Looks like I'm on Mars. There is nothing. It's red soil for as far as you could see. Not a stick. I kid you not. Not as far as you could see. And the lakes up there are now salt pans. Not a drop of water anywhere. And that's why there's so much roadkill now, because the animals, the wildlife, are coming out and licking the dew off the white line in the road, in the middle of the road.
Oh, no.
There's nothing to drink. This is the thing I talked about possibly in your last interview we did together. I talked about the venusification of the Western countries. That's what I'm talking about.
Just explain that word again for people who don't know.
It's venusification. Venus, nothing can grow on Venus. Well, guess what? Nothing can grow in some of these areas now.
For people whose minds are melting down, just let's pull it back for a moment and say, if I'd never come across this material, I'd go, oh, come on, Bron, come on, why would the government do that? The government's there to help us and recognise that we have needs and be on our side. What would you say to people who are going, this sounds ridiculous? It's their first time coming across this.
Okay, well, let's think of it this way. The build-up of the ultra-processed foods right now, we're only just like 20 years ago, 87% of our groceries for ingredients for cooking was fresh food. Now it's down to 22 because our baskets are filling with ultra-processed foods. These are fast foods and we will die slowly. It's all manufactured, engineered food. And that's another topic. We could talk for hours on that.
And if you doubt that, you can find footage of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab talking about how we must eat the bugs. He has a German accent. We must eat the bugs. And they're going to eat the best of the food in the world. The few, people call them elite. I call them the parasitic. Very wealthy few want the best of the world for themselves while we eat ground up crickets. And it's sold to us as healthy when it's not healthy for human bodies.
Oh, Liz, I'm going to bring a lady to our next talk, Vanessa. She is a small farmer not far from here. And the stories that I found with her about what's happening to her little farm is obscene. I think, why can't these people leave people alone? We're talking about interference at every single level, overreach in bank accounts. It's now the case where if you want to spend money to pay a certain kind of bill, the bank will deem whether they're going to pay that bill for you with your money. They will say yes or no. And they'll come back and they'll say, we're not unsure of that account or whatever. And say, but I paid these people before. Oh, no, it doesn't look safe. And then you go in to try and get your money out of the bank. What's this for? Oh, well, what will you be doing with that? There are these questions, these interrogations. I'm thinking, seriously? My money? It's happened to me, just even to do a share ride account. I couldn't pay them because the bank deemed it unsafe. How does this happen today?
It's horrifying, all those people, those dead-eyed bureaucrats in the banks that go along with this. Don't they see it's their world and their children's world that is being ruined?
I think that the hypnosis, the NLP, the brain manipulation over all of this, they're switched off. A lot of people are switched off.
And again, for someone saying, oh, it's too much, conspiracy theorists. And by the way, the JFK files showed that the term conspiracy theory is now a compliment, and it means you have critical thinking skills and you will be proved right in the long run. If you're doubting what Bronwyn says there about the mind manipulations, look up the MK Ultra program in America. And that was literally about mind manipulation. So I mean, this is just horrifying, and I would love to interview Vanessa as well about what else she's going through. So she, as a small holder of land, is finding bureaucratic overreach in every area. There are moments, Bron, don't you get to this point where you go, just get out of my life, leave me alone. Government, get out of my life. It's this whole thing of government overreach, and it's not helping. And here's the answer: the government's not our friend. The government is working now for the globalists and not the people of the countries they work in. And that's very hard to get your head around. Is it tied in, Bron, with all of the words from Bill Gates where he talks about the population of the world is too big? And I know that Gates' goal is to get it down to about 500 million. It's unbelievable the amount of death that they are willing to sit with of the human population, supposedly to save the planet for themselves. They're not elites. They're the parasitic few. They want it all.
Yes, it's all part of control. But
do you think they want a eugenics program? Do you think they want to reduce the human population through all this poisoning, either by needle or on the land or through our farms or through our food?
Oh, absolutely. And look, on the way to your death, you've paid handsomely for every kind of pharmaceutical product, for every kind of disease and every kind of problem that might be. And that doesn't mean we're cheerfully paying taxes and taxes and taxes on every single thing, on your after-tax money spend for things that we don't even want. Most Australians, when you actually start speaking to them, say, well, I didn't vote for that. Well, I didn't ask for that. I'm not paying for that. I don't consent to that. But here we are. So we all need to do better. From our point of view, we've lost all our food bowls down the east coast of Australia. There's very few that are actually functioning. Vanessa, who is a very special organic farmer for like 30 years and has a business, it's an e-com business where you can order your box online and they'll deliver, very famous in the Adelaide region. And she came to a meeting that I was in hosting, and then she was disclosing what was happening. I stopped the meeting and I turned around to the audience and I said, can you not hear what's going on? Can you not hear? This is a call for help. She's asking for help, but she doesn't know how to ask. These are farmers all over the world. It's a call for help. Right there, she burst into tears. The room burst into tears because she is their friend. And the room, you could hear a pin drop because all of a sudden the cogs were turning and now they realised, oh my gosh, we are in trouble. I said, this is fixable for you. You've got 1 square metre on the planet hurtling through space right now. We all do. We all need to do better. We all have to pitch in. There is absolutely nothing left. We've got 5 years, guys. We can do this. You need to start looking, getting rid of the red and blue, green and whatever the colours you have in your country. These people are like the uni party. Doesn't matter who you vote for, they're all the same. What you need now is to start look at the big brave ones. Well, they're not big, they're small. And very often they're doing it with one hand tied behind their back financially. They're doing it because they believe, they love their country, they love their fellow man, and they're working day and night. When I had that meeting with Rennick, I couldn't believe how in tune he was. Every single stat I gave him, every single point of difference, what I saw around the country, what's happening to the fire ants in Queensland, destroying whole homesteaders everywhere. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He knew. When I left that meeting, he could, without missing a beat, he could recite back to me every single thing in bullet point. He knew exactly what I was talking about, and he's on it. It's on his agenda because he's got a farm too. He knows what it's like.
And Rod Cullerton is a farmer as well. I know Rod, and he's very genuine.
Yeah, well, Rod, here's another thing. I think it was Rod and Craig Kelly. They have organised farming events and they've had PR agencies try to get all the farmers in one place at one time. In Western Australia, this happened. And they were expecting something like nearly 200, 180 something. And he walked into the room and he said, "Oh, where are all the farmers?" He said, "That's it. There's 40. Now, in Ireland, only 15 years ago, you had 100 and something like 168 farmers in Ireland. Now there's 22. These farmers in Queensland, many are not coming back. They can't. There's nothing to come back to. It's literally you've just lost your whole life.
This is
And there's no support.
horrifying. This is
So
horrifying. And we need to take people to the end game of Agenda 2030. Yes, population reduction is one, but the end game for them is break the West, break our freedoms, break our ability to fight back, have us sick and poisoned by our food and poisoned by their so-called medicines so that we are on our knees. This is covert warfare. When we're on our knees, they will come in and say, look, we can help you all. We'll put you on a payment from the government, but in return for that payment, there are no jobs. AI will take over the jobs. You will eat the food we want. You'll live in the smart cities, which are not smart, they're dumb. S stands for surveillance cities. Smart cities are surveillance cities. And you will do exactly what we want. And just as in China, if you do one thing or speak out or say one thing that we don't like, your bank account will be shut down immediately. You'll have no access to funds. You won't be able to go on the transport because you won't have your cars anymore. And you will be basically ostracized from society. So you look at China now, a fully compliant, broken, dead-eyed society that cannot fight back against these tyrants. And that's the model the World Economic Forum and the UN have adopted. That's how dark it is.
one of the things that I have learnt in recent times is if there's a digital system, there is always a manual system. They don't tell you about it. You need to ask for it. And there are acts within legislation that has that. And like in Australia, we've got the digital ID. There is an act that you can actually cite and say, I'd prefer the manual, please.
Can you refer me to that, please, Bron?
I can. Just hold on a second. It's right in front of me. I need my glasses. So, Section 74 of the bill states, a participating relying party must not, as a condition of providing as a service or access to a service, require an individual to create or use a digital ID.
And that's not a bill, that's a statute that has been passed into law?
Yeah, because the law is the digital ID. Everybody, if you own a company here in Australia, you must have a digital ID.
So there you have to dig, as you've said on your site, dig into the information. Knowledge at this point is power. Us standing together as people around the world is going to be our power against these parasitic few. But we can't stand together unless we all inform one another how dark this agenda is. So what do you say to people, Bron, in your meetings when there are the tears and there is the despair? What hope do you give them?
Very simple. You've got your square metre on the planet. What we need to do is we've got to start practicing growing real food, because the food that's coming is not food. I put a post up in my socials in Instagram, your Earthfood, and there was an arancini balls recipe. Well, it wasn't the recipe, it was the ingredients that was on a box that my staff had ordered for me for one of my plane flights. And I just thought, oh, I'll just check this out, because nothing passes this lips if I don't know what's in it. It's totally manufactured and engineered. The only living thing that was on that was the rosemary sprinkling on top.
I remember you mentioning that. So we have to get away from the middle aisles of the supermarkets. We have to stop buying things in packages. And that means, doesn't it, Bron, simplifying? I've simplified my diet right down. It's really just meat from a farming friend and basically vegetables and fruit that I grow. I've really simplified. What for people in town, in those awful smart cities they're building, can they grow things in boxes that will be able to keep them going?
Well, I'll just give you a bit of a glance what's happening around the world. So we've got whole flooding throughout Italy. They've lost their food bowls. All the tomato fields in Spain. So if you're going to one of those big food outlets where you're buying a jar of your spaghetti sauce, it's probably come from those fields. They're gone. We've got UK that's had terrible storms. Their greenhouses has been smashed. What was only 4 years ago, I think it was £2 for a tray of capsicums is now 130 to 150 pounds for the same tray. Now,
Good grief.
these people in UK won't be able to eat that kind of food at those prices. There are many people who are starting to turn their second bedroom into grow rooms under halo lights. So in a smart city, that would be your choice, is to start learning, well, how do I do this? From Earthfood's perspective, we have living microbes and we've got the world technology to be able to put them to sleep. These are nitrifying bacterium, soil bacterium, and these help make trace minerals and selenium within the soil for the plant to eat. When plants have that, that's when you get that taste and the structure and all of the good stuff. But more importantly, you need trace minerals and selenium as the foundation of your own best health. Now, before I did this tour, I had a talk with my lifestyle doctor, just a chat. And she said, Bronwyn, would you understand if I said this? My number one, my diagnosis that she gives out right now. Can you possibly guess, Liz?
What is it? Vitamin C deficiency or?
Yeah, it's scurvy.
Scurvy.
We have an outbreak of scurvy because people are eating ultra-processed food, which has no vitamin C. We're not eating food that has vitamin C. So Victoria had a trial done on their fresh food, and I think you might have heard me say this before, 67% had no nutritional value from the fresh food sold in the big food distributing chains.
This is horrifying. You see, they make it so expensive to get the good, healthy food, and they make the cheap, ghastly, dead food, the Franken food, the laboratory food from Bill Gates, cheap. And so people, families go for that. And we are what we eat. That is such a basic thing when you think about it. Briefly, we'll talk about your Earthfood again. It is this wonderful nutrition for the soil, but the nutrition goes into the plants when we eat those highly nutrient-dense plants. We get that nutrition in our bodies and our bodies grow stronger. It's very, very simple, isn't it, Bron?
It is. And that's where you get your immunity from. So if you've been unwell, you go to a naturopath or something, the first thing they do is they look up your minerals. Well, how's your magnesium? How's your zinc? How's your manganese? This comes from the ground. We have to say, well, where does it come from? It comes from bioavailability minerals from the soil that the plant can eat. We cannot put it in as a man-made replacement because that will go up the drinking structure of the plant. Right now you've got a sick and dying plant who's not going to be able to absorb as many minerals as you'd like. That's why we've got plants with no nutritional value.
But then, Bron, what about people who say, hey, don't worry about that. I just take vitamins out of a pill bottle. What do you say to that?
Well, good luck with that because, and I do too, I have to have top-ups because when I'm on the road, I can't always get what I like. And what I like comes out from my backyard. But you see, those sort of things you won't be able to get in after these next 5 years because they will own the vitamin C. It'll be everything's synthetic. And I can tell you there is a difference. There is a vibe. There's a frequency that changes things. Synthetic vitamin C is nowhere near the natural vitamin C. The vitamin C that you would get from a nice pile of spinach or a nice
or a beautiful orange tree grown in your Earthfood.
Yes.
That's very strong in its structure. Bron,
Yes.
just on the Earthfood, you are on the road at the moment, so it's hard for you to be producing all of that. Well, you can't do everything. If you had somebody who sponsored you and you could get a team of people producing what you have with this beautiful micronutrient dense food, you would be able to do both to a certain extent, wouldn't you? You're traveling Australia to inform people, but you would be able to get a business model up and running at home, which you haven't been able to do because you're trying to help your planet. You're trying to help your people.
As I said, like, it doesn't really matter about us. But I'm in the afternoon of my life, and it's not so much about us. It is our kids and their kids, because they are going to come into a lifetime of pain and misery and disaster and lack. We're talking right now, we've got lack of housing, lack of water. Here is lack of water. Up in Queensland, it's lack of food. There's stuff that's happening it's impacting, and it's increasing every year. And the terrorism that's happening to local farmers, cash crop growers, homesteaders, the floods washed all of those homesteaders out as well. So they've got to start again. And then you've got to buy this. You need to buy seeds. Well, where do you get the heirloom seed? There's only so few people that can get it to sell, to on-sell. With everything that we need to have a life that what we had in the 60s and the 70s is pretty well changed to the point of no return. We've only got this last 5 years, and there will be no return. I've just driven out to the desert lands here in South Australia to meet farmers. I've spoken to people on those lands. Nothing is on, as far as you can see, nothing. And I feel like I was on Mars. When I come into the woodlands, it's all dry. There's so much roadkill. Terrible situation for those animals. Then we come into the vineyards. The wine producing capital of Australia here are struggling. There's no water for the vines. They can't get labour. That's another thing. And their fields are just not producing anywhere near what they did. And in fact, that's one of the reasons I came down here, was to help these farmers. Their soils are dead. And this is a phenomenon around the world, Western world. The soils are dead.
The worst thing to come to terms with is this is created on purpose. This does not have to be like this. We need to ease back on all the regulations. We need to allow people like you to get your soil. That would help these farmers enormously, wouldn't it? If these farmers with dried out lands could have your microbiome on their lands, they would, am I right here? They would very quickly enrich and resuscitate and recuperate.
Yeah.
Is that an exaggeration?
No, that's exactly right. We were putting together a program for an end-of-life mining site, which was a rainforest once in the subtropics, and now it's a slab of rock covered in sulfuric acid. And all we're doing is microbial repair, because Mother Nature knows perfectly well how to look after herself when she's given the opportunity with her repair toolkit. And these microbes, they will go into a rock, into a pores, and then they start building and breaking down. And they can do that in 9 months and clean all that up, and then we can put out the native grass seeds. And now, after 18 months, we've actually got some action going on.
So they don't get killed off by the sulfuric acid. They can take it.
No, and plants actually like a little bit of it too. But this is where people don't understand. If you don't understand this biology and how it works, and how it works within us and our ancient gut and brain health, which is the same thing as what our living microbes are. It's exactly the same thing as what you'd find in good quality rainforest flora. That's the same. We're all the same. We're the system within a system within a system. When one of those systems has fallen apart or fallen through the cracks, so to speak, well, then it affects everything. It's a domino effect. The reason why we're so sick and tired is the planet is so sick and tired. Yes. The reason why food is so bad is because it's all sick and tired. We need to build ourselves.
Let's move to that. If there is somebody watching this with millions and would like to leave a legacy, a living legacy to the globe, how much would you need to get this business, this soil business, truly up and pumping while you're touring the country, and you could then deliver the soil to these desperate farmers? How much would you need to really get this going?
We're talking a few million. That's it.
So what, for 2 or 3 million, you could really make something?
5 million, and then we can actually build our own bottling plant and be in control of the biology and have our lab there. Not difficult.
Okay, come on. There have to be people who must see that your millions won't help you when you're starved and when your food suppliers can't survive and you don't have the ability to buy good food because it's not being produced. Please, would a group of very wealthy people get behind Bronwyn? How do they contact you, Bron? Or they can contact me if you don't want to be contacted directly. All right, liz.gunn@freenz.org, and then I can weed out any ridiculous trolls. We always have the government trolls.
Yeah.
We try to send the nasty stuff, and then I'll send the good ones on to you. I mean, we know their games. We have to look at the darkness that they are trying to create, but the wealthy people now need to realize their wealth will not save them if there's no food, good food for you to eat. You'll suffer like the rest of us. So get behind Bronwyn. That's a real
it's not
appeal.
just that. It's their grandkids and their kids.
Yeah.
Like, if you've had a good life in your time and things have turned out well for you, well, I can tell you things will not turn out well for your kids, your grandkids. So if you've got someone now who's 30, well, you may have been able to buy them some property and establish them and get them set up, and maybe they work for a nice little corporation with a nice little super and all the rest of it. But that's not going to be available in the future because we're all going to be treated the same. We're the fodder, we're the ATM for the elite.
ATM? What? They make their money on us, you mean?
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah, on our backs. It's so extraordinary. It's one of those things where those who cling on to their vast wealth and don't now pitch in and help us all will realize on their deathbeds, my God, I can't take it with me. And my children's children will have a miserable life here. So it is, in a way, there's a positive. In a way, this is now the time. It's crystal clear. Humanity en masse must stand together against the parasitic few who are psychopaths like Bill Gates and Schwab. They're psychopathic. And it's like a really bad movie with really ridiculous villains. But they're getting away with it because too many people are still being passive. So, Bronwyn, just back to the meetings. What else are you hearing in the meetings? What are they telling you?
Well, we've got they tell me their versions of their style of trauma that's been going on. This coming week, I'll be talking to a range of hemp growers. For some reason, they cannot get anything happening in their soils, despite all of the university trials and all of the products and the very expensive agronomist advice.
And the chemical agriculture.
Chemical
big
agriculture.
Agri.
Yeah. So they're coming out and their fields are lying down flat. They cannot get the volume. Farmers get paid on weight. They can't get the weight. So often the fields that are being harvested and then they're taught to rotate, which is in alignment with big ag's style of farming. And the reason why they do that is because they have insects and on the fields and diseases in their soil and pesky insects in the soil.
And the reason they have that is because the soil balance is wrong. And the soil balance is wrong because of, is this right, all the poisons?
Yes, it's dried out. Like glyphosate, for example, which is a herbicide, it's a desiccant. It just dries out soil. It dries out the plant. That's why the weeds die. But I don't know if people actually realise the more that you try to kill a weed, the more weeds you get to kill. So because it's Mother Nature's way of saying, I'm unwell, I need some cover on my skin, and she has these weeds that probably comes from a bird dropping. It could be really simple as that. And they grow quickly, they throw out their seeds quickly, and then they plant themselves quickly, they grow quickly, throw them out, and it's a repeat. So she's got some skin. She knows perfectly well. When we come along saying, oh, that's in competition with my blah, blah, blah crop, I've got to get rid of that. Chemical, down, and it goes on. That chemical gets washed out into waterways, it kills your bees, your soil biome. It's designed because the cartels know perfectly well if you have living microbes, and particularly ours, that you cannot, you won't need any of their product range. Because if you've got living, healthy, fertile, chocolate brown living soil with your microbes, well then that's all you need. You get all the plant, all the food, all the requirements, all the nutrition. You don't get pesky weeds because they won't take root and grow. They only grow in dry, crumbly, dead dirt. Same with fire ants and all these other things. They only come in areas where there's dry, dusty, dead dirt, not the healthy stuff. The healthy stuff, if we just had this like the way, the Garden of Eden version, we wouldn't have the problems that we're having. And that's why I'm saying a lot of this is manufactured. It all comes from the chemicals and the ownership of what we have to use. So we're going to have to use seeds that they provide. A lot of them are dipped in neonicotinoid, which is human carcinogenic. So why are we eating this? Because that's all there is. And in the next 5 years, you will not be able to get a seed. I'm telling people right now, seeds will be used as a commodity. Now, everyone was banging on about getting gold and silver and all this sort of stuff. But you know what? You can't eat it. Can't eat it. So seeds will be a commodity. Heritage, good quality virgin seeds. You can trade with that. Already, farmers in Thailand are trading with grains of rice. There's no money. They're way ahead of us. Control. So,
Bron, I just find it
I don't know
brilliant
when to
talking.
stop, do I?
I find it brilliant talking to you. You are so practical. You're so common sense. You tell the truth so from the ground, because you are connected to the ground. People need to listen to you. At the end of these meetings, are people just pinned to their seats in silence? Are they staggered with the truths? Do they put their hands up and say, I had no idea it was this bad?
A lot of the people I'm invited to speak in their groups, a lot of them have a lot of knowledge already, and they already are in other groups of same. So they've spread themselves across, maybe three different kinds of groups. And one might be in law, one might be in something, food, and another one might be so on. So when I get invited, they have an understanding. But when I tell them the actual facts, when I can explain things in bite size, I sometimes speak like a high school teacher to a grade 7 class, because that's at the level that we need to reach people. And that's where they can pick it up and they can run with it. My advice to everyone, start growing, start looking at how you can get good soil. You probably can't get good soil anymore. Rachel Ward spent 5 years fixing her farm in a documentary, and she's got money, so she could afford the labour, she could afford the input and the mixing and the time. It took her 5 years. Well, the microbes in Earthfood can do that in 9 months. And see, that's the power of nature. If we just step out of the way, put the microbes back in, we can continue, we can build our food reserves, we can have fresh food. I teach how to grow and feed a family of 4, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week from a patch of 4x4. It's doable. It's okay. And it comes down to what we are eating per day, per meal.
What's that though, Bron? Is that vegetarian food? Because you can't be having an animal. You can't be having meat on that.
Oh, you can have chickens and you can have a cow and goat, but this is just from your garden.
Wow.
Yeah.
I say really link up with a local farmer that you trust, who doesn't poison his animals and doesn't poison his land, and the animals have a good life. The meat that I get is from somebody who has a really compassionate kill on the land where the animal doesn't even know. It happens so quickly instead of all that stress going to the works. There are wonderful ways we can support our farmers. Go out, go into the countryside, talk to a farmer and say, how can I support you? Can I come and build a little communal garden with a few of us, and we can get products back to the markets and back to the people? Be imaginative, and above all, read Bronwyn's blog so that you'll get more ideas, which is yourearthfood.com. Bron, we'll keep talking to you as you tour around the country. It's it's incredible what you've been doing. But you said to me before we started this, you're quite blown away by how beautiful the people have been where you've been traveling and how generous they've been. I know you're currently in a place above someone's house and you're looking out to a gorgeous beach scene. We can't show them, but you're in your own apartment that looks like a Sheraton hotel. So what has it been like in terms of the response as you've been touring?
Okay, there's a couple of things. Now, my goal is to reach farmers to help them repair their soil, get their yields up so they can actually start making money where they can and claim back their land as much as they can. The other thing is to reach people where they can understand how simple it is to start looking after yourself and getting into the habit. So what I have found in my journey that there are some people who are helping promote that I'm coming into town, and it's very much a community cottage industry style of approach. They hand do their flyers and they stick them up in the glass walls of the bakery in town, or they're literally going around door knocking farmer to farmer saying you've got to be here. And then they go into like Farmer Federation Association type organisations and they refuse to send out the email. And
Wow.
then, and they say, why? So, oh, well, we're not interested in these things. And then then the people handing out the information will say, well, why? Why wouldn't a farmer want to know about something that would be useful? Because we don't really believe that this is all part of where we're at. And then I've gone and I've done the meetings thinking, well, surely word would spread. And sometimes there's only like 5 people in the room.
This is horrifying. This is just like the doctors who sold themselves out under the COVID-19 response to Big Pharma and said, we believe everything Big Pharma tells us and we won't look at anything else. And now they've been proved so wrong. And it's the same with Big Agri.
Here's something else. They've then heard I've been there. The word has gone out. These people have been there. They've heard me talk. They've seen my stats. They've seen my results. I've all got my farmers' trials here where you get up to 40% increase in your crops. Day in, day out, I talk about this. They've heard it. They've seen it. They've bought the product. In 1 week, they can see a magnificent change on their trial. They're telling everyone. And they say, well, how come I didn't know? I would have gone to that. And now they say, when are you coming back? Well, I can't come back. I've got to keep going forward. It's unmissable. When I'm talking there, I may not ever get back because I have a life too. And I've been on the road for a very long time and I'm bone tired. And I'm an old lady, Liz.
You don't have the energy. It's all that lovely Earthfood that you have that keeps you strong. But Bron, it's so needed. It's absolutely needed. Your product is so needed. So the appeals tying today's interview up, please, if there is somebody or a group of people with money who could help Bron get just amp up the production of this Earthfood so that it can really help farmers. Please, if people would like Bronwyn to speak, will you contact me, liz.gunn@freenz.org, and I'll send it on to you, Bron, and then you could go to their town and they will undertake to organise a meeting and welcome you in there.
Please, folks, go and find right now. Here's your homework. You are going to Google a farmer near you. If it's organic, small little farmer, phone them up. Say, mate, I've just heard this, this and this. I want to come and help you. I want to volunteer my help. What can I do for you? And they'll be shocked for the first 10 minutes and then they'll be stuttering all over themselves. But then offer them, I can come and lay hay. I can come and pick your fruit. I can come and carry things for you. I can come, blah, blah, blah. Think of all the things you can do. Even if you're in a wheelchair, don't make that an excuse. Get out there. Even if you've got 1.5 legs, go out there. Even if you've got, arthritis, you can do things in standing up or sitting down, whatever works for you. There is no excuse. There is plenty to do. These guys are struggling. Vanessa had something like I think she said she's at close to 60 staff at once. Now she's down to 3. She burst into tears. She was in tears in a public meeting. She had nowhere to go. Her back is against the wall. She is so typical of the people that you are sidestepping to run to the front door of a big cartel with a big logo over the sliding doors. Stop it. Stop it. You're doing yourself, and you're not future-proofing yourself. You're doing yourself harm. This is the point. We're at a dangerous situation. We're at a tipping point for humanity. We're all sick and tired. Humanity. We are all sick and tired. The people in control are not your friend. They're a bureaucracy that's bought and paid for. Evidence, 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 miles and miles and miles. Everybody knows these things.
And Bron, that
And
phrase, we're all sick and tired because the food is sick and tired, that applies to the supermarket food. And they're ripping us off with the pricing. Plus, it's so fun to garden. It really brings you into the present. It gets you offline. It calms your mind. It makes you healthy. It gets sunshine into your cells when you're outdoors. On so many levels, helping those local farmers. It works. It works for you, and it will work for your children to take your children to the local farms. Bron, where are you going to next? Where can people find you?
right, let's have a look, shall we? Well, you can always go to your earthfood.com events, and there's a list there. I am looking for trying to build up New South Wales speaking tour. I've been blocked on that one, can you believe? And it's not happening, but I'm just putting my hand up, say, guys, if you want me to come, I'm breaking up the tour. So there's the northern New South Wales and southern New South Wales. And I'm going back to Victoria again. They've said we need you back here. So we've got a list of people who are working on something there. I am going to Western Australia, and I am coming to New Zealand as soon as I can get past the biosecurity. I can't believe it. We have an international harmony code. We can go anywhere in the world except Russia and China and New Zealand.
Oh,
So,
and look
seriously?
at the piece. Look at the piece we started on. New Zealand, you must let our Australian big sister in. The countries are so aligned on so much. Why are you keeping her out?
That's so true, Liz. And you know what? My inbox, if I get onto that after this today, I will have for sure a farmer from New Zealand in there, for sure.
I talked to one yesterday and I said, I have a friend who produces these beautiful micronutrients for the soil. It will cut back on all your costs with the big agri products. It will help produce beautiful, healthy crops and thereby healthy animals. This farmer was just wanting to know the details straight away. He was a very practical farmer. He was really interested straight away, wanted to know the details. It's so easy to talk about your product and it will be so easy to sell it here. And what I love is it will cut costs for desperate farmers and it will give them hope and the knowledge that they can then produce the food they want, and it will help all of the New Zealand population start to get back to healthy, well-built foods so we become a much healthier population. Bron, we need you here so urgently. In the meantime, you and I can keep doing our interviews as and when you're free on the road. It's just a delight to talk to you. And I'm going to go out on a piece from Andrew Bridgen, the UK former politician, who is explaining here what that agenda that you and I have alluded to several times today is really about. Now, really listen to this, because food is at the heart of this. If we can stay healthy, we can take over from the globalists, kick them out and get our world back for us and for our children. But listen to Andrew Bridgen speaking here. And Bronwyn, I'll talk to you soon. It's always a delight. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Did we cover everything, or was there anything else you wanted?
Oh, well, I think one of the things if you want to make a note for another time, is in New Zealand right now, you are having high levels of nitrogen in your application on your farming land, which kills soil biome. So microbes don't live in nitrogen. They have atmospheric nitrogen from the air and they lock that in the ground. But when we add it in there, it's like putting kerosene on everybody.
Just explain that. Why, for one, how do you know that New Zealand's having high applications, and why would we be doing that?
Because you have, for example, in the South Island, you've got a lot of dairy cattle down there, and with all of the food, they're trying to grow food really fast for their miles and miles of cattle, as far as you can see. And so when they do that, they throw in high levels of nitrogen to make food grow quickly. And that's what it does. It's an artificial steroid input that forces the plant to absorb and to grow. But two things happen. If that's a crop, that would die early and it would be weak and have no structure. But for a dairy farmer over there, they just want to feed what they can to the cattle. But they've actually killed their soil biome. And the soil biome is part of nature to work with the stomachs of the cows, but it's also what you need for the planet to repair itself. So when nitrogen only sits this far down in the ground, that's it. When it rains, it's just pushed along to your next waterway. And you've got waterways down there that are so toxic that if a dog swam in it, it would be dead in an hour.
You've been told that, Bron. You've been told that about New Zealand.
I have tried so hard. I have done massive research to find the chiefs, because everything's run by the chiefs down there, I'm understanding. And there was a journalist, I've lost all that now, because I've been doing this literally for years, trying to get hold of them, because I wanted to say, you can repair this, and you can repair the riverbanks, which will help repair the waterways, and that repairs, and you can build up the soil from there. And I cannot get to speak to anyone. They're not interested. And they're like they're gods in their own castles, and got all the gatekeepers, and you can't get past them.
So what if you write to New Zealand bureaucrats who are supposedly in our farming sector? Nobody answers.
Not interested.
Bronwyn,
I have worked so hard for New Zealand, and I cannot crack it one bit. It's so tight. Yeah.
If it's okay with you, I will add this piece in the main interview, if that's all right.
Yeah. And I don't know, you're still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording. But, Bron, that is just horrifying.
Really in trouble.
We'll just finish with that line. Just finish with that line. Say that again cleanly.
New Zealand is in trouble. That's why we're coming.
Bronwyn, I think we'll pick up more on that next interview as well. We need you here. The world needs you. I mean, once we get Australia and New Zealand right, you're going to be needed in Europe to help those poor farmers. And the British farmers are struggling, the Irish farmers, the Dutch, the French. It's horrendous what has been going on. And to think this is created by human beings, a few psychopathic human beings.
I would desperately like to be part of the MAHA project in America. I really believe I can add value there, definitely. And the stats on what's happening in Louisiana right now, that's your new Ethiopia.
Explain that?
Yeah. I know. Just think about this. So I've just talked about the venusification, just literally 4.5 hours drive from where I'm sitting right now. Beautiful.
Drying out the land, turning it into arid deserts, really.
Can't grow
like
a thing.
Venus.
Louisiana is on target because of its where it is, how it's impacted by the weather. That's your new Ethiopia.
But it's not climate change, is it? It's not.
I'll put a caveat over that. In the next 15 years, you will see it head towards that way and become that way if there's not an intervention.
But are you saying it's from climate change, or is this also from man-made interference? Which one?
And killing off the food bowls. So in Louisiana, that's where you get your sugar cane and all your grain crops are out there.
But Bron, this is where they confuse people. They say, you see, it's evidence of climate change that Louisiana is doing that. So what's your answer to that?
No, everything I know about geoengineering of the weather is definitely part of that plan. And the floods in New Orleans, the once-in-a-lifetime events, there'll be more. This is the plan over the next 15 years. You're going to see more and more of this, and they will dry areas out, so they're pushing people into these smart cities I literally came down the M1 here. I'm in a desert. I'm seeing nothing. And out of the blue, literally, here's this estate, and it says, "You'll love to live here." And there's waterfalls, and I just was stunned. All these high walls and these big tall palm trees. I just felt like I was in Las Vegas in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. And I'm thinking, oh, there's one.
A
That's your
smart
future.
city.
There's your future. And these rooms are not big. They're like, well, I guess the room I'm sitting in right now would be bigger than most of the apartment that you'd be living in. And
We're
that's
building those
designed.
everywhere in New Zealand. They're like containers. They're like horrible little arid boxes. They're not. There's no beauty. There's no design. They're just people stackers. Pack them and
Yeah.
stack them.
And soil destroying. So if you're a creative person, good luck with that. If you want to grow food, good luck with that. You're going to have to learn to grow food in pots. You're going to have to learn to grow food in your lounge room. You're going to have to find out what are your priorities. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about in your lifetime, before you take off and grow your angel wings. This is in our lifetime. And you know, I don't know how long I've got to live. I don't know. Some people say I'll have a bullet between my brain. So
May
I walk
you
a fine
stay.
line, Liz. It's scary.
Yeah, may you stay safe. If anything happened to you, so many, as with other heroes in the world, so many of us would be furious and would know that we have to go after those who've done that. I think they know it's too late for that. The more they do that, look at what happened with the Trump attempted assassination. It just woke up millions. The more they do it, the more it's waking up people to their evils. That era has gone. And may you stay safe, Bronwyn.
Well, I'm making a public announcement. I will never commit suicide, okay?
Yes. Yeah. And that you want to live a long and healthy life. And that
Amen.
you are very healthy. You're not sick in any way.
Not at all.
No,
No.
I'm just the same. Isn't it ludicrous we have to even think like this? But you know, you said soil starved, but we're soul starved in those smart cities. We're soil and soul starved.
And
We
the other
need Mother
thing is
Nature.
they're taking away people's belief systems about what, you know, what they believe in, and, you know, like religion or your relationship with your God. They're taking that away. Just pointing out, like in London right now, all the councils are now run by Muslim CEOs. We're getting people in our parliament as well. It's changing, and my understanding is the stats of immigration, or compared to people who really live in countries, is now exceeding the numbers of the people who are of that country.
Oh, we've just had Luxon up in India basically saying he's going to throw open the borders of New Zealand. Come one, come all. He just wants us to be absolutely deluged. And one of my best friends is an Indian. I mean, they're really good people, but the reason that he's such a Kiwi is because he was given time to integrate into our population. These tsunamis, these waves of immigrants do not work because they can't be absorbed in the population, and it causes resentment, which of course is another part of their plan. Bronwyn, it's been a delight. We will keep going now, and you and I will talk again. I think we could talk for days sometimes. It's so interesting talking to you.
Liz, I'm going to come back to you. I've got an interview with Vanessa, the cash crop farmer, the organic lady, spent 30 years of her life developing this farm, which is now at a point of no return. We've got Laurie, who is one of the co-founders of Triumph of Patriots here. It's a really big action political party in South Australia. It's funded by
Clive Owen.
Clive
Owen.
Owen?
Clive.
Palmer.
That's it. Yeah.
It's funded by Clive Palmer. He's not running at all, but he's definitely got the bank account for them.
Yeah.
We've also got a farmer. This is a farmer in the York Peninsula who is growing hemp. I'm doing a whole workshop there. It's made open to the public. and there'll be an interview with him as well. Someone that you'll be really interested to hear his views on what's going on. And of course, there is another podcast or something that we're going to do with Wade Northhausen from Billboard Battalion. We are opening up topics that are quite what we are seeing right now, and he's currently back in Victoria. I'm still on the road in South Australia, and we are hooking up sometime. And there is some things that we're trying to work on together so that we can get it out to you, Liz.
That would be amazing. Do you think you and I could do some of those together? Or just thinking while I'm listening, Bron, why don't you do your versions? You need good sound for them. But what if we even did a Zoom with 5 or 6 of you?
Yes, yeah, we could.
If we could get people tuning in, or are the topics too markedly different? I'd be happy to do them with you. You and I sort of co-host them and talk to one of these people.
Yes.
Or I interview
Vanessa
you
would be
and
a good
them.
one. Well,
Yeah.
Vanessa would be good because she's actually explaining all these new rules that have come in and this new auditing process that's happened in South Australia. So they've already, look, I was talking about this 5 years ago and I said, this is coming, this is coming. People ignored me and now they're turning around and saying, well, what happened? And I said, well, now they're right at the beginning of this farm auditing program. This is all part of the build up to this carbon credits program that's going to run the world. And that's going to determine how you're going to live in your smart city for sure. And we're being monitored right now by a company called Look Who's Charging in our bank apps, already starting to collect all the data on what you spend your after-tax money on. And it categorises it for you because it deems fit what you are spending your money on. An example of this is whether you've got education, gifts, or groceries, fuel, etc., vehicles, expenses. It actually categorises it as if it's a bookkeeper for you, and that data is recording and recording and recording every month, and that is sent. And when we tick off, most people don't read the terms and conditions that you just tick off in your app because they think, oh, well, you have to do it, otherwise you can't access your money. That's the big game. Well, you've just accessed something, you don't even know what's going on. One of them is anyone can enter your bank account without your permission because, just once. Because once they enter, they never leave. So we're being monitored already. That's why people can the bank can say, well, we don't agree with you paying that account, so we didn't pay it for you. Even though you're clicking pay, nothing's happening because they've deemed it like not appropriate. This is happening now. A friend of mine, he has a business. He has high turnover of money. He's got to pay things all the time. The amount of trouble he's had, he's almost at the point of shutting his business down. He cannot keep going. It's insane. And it's coming to a bank near you, everyone.
And in the end, Bronwyn, the COVID-19 shutdowns really hit into the mum and dad businesses, the middle-class businesses. So this is another way to make the middle-class businesses want to shut down. They don't want the middle class because they are the engine room of change and growth and dynamism in a society. The mum and dad middle-class businesses, it's all meant to move upwards to the corporate, ginormous corporations who benefit while the small businesses don't benefit anymore. It's
exactly. Look, honestly, it's the small business of our countries that are the spine of the countries that make these countries work. And right now, all these large organisations who are given out in Australia, they're given our resources practically for free, and they're not paying any tax because the taxes are all out in structures and instruments across the globe, which means there's nothing here to pay tax on, or very little, as a token, really, just to keep everyone happy. And that money, we're not actually getting in our economy. The economy runs on mum and dad businesses. I don't think people actually understand how this works. You lose these mum and dad businesses. That's the guy, the corner shop grocery man. That's the, the little mechanic down the road. Well, I can tell you in another 5 years, you won't be able to get a mechanic to do a car repair all you get is a grease and oil change because they're dying out. They're not coming through the TAFE systems. You will not be able, if you bought an electric vehicle in 10 years' time, you will not be able to get a factory battery upgrade unless you know someone like Graham Manietta from Oz Electric Vehicles. We are working so hard to get some activities happening with him for humanity, because that's how we roll. I can't really disclose too much here because it's under an NDA, but all he needs is 4 million, bugger all, to create a multi-billion-dollar business that we can now export and not rely on that big country north of us.
So why aren't people going to TAFE to study how to build a car?
It's part of the agenda, Liz. This is like put them all into STEM so they can sit at a desk in a little tiny room, which we call a smart city, for the rest of their life.
You mean they're not teaching the courses on the cars?
Yeah, there's courses, but mostly they're not doing it because they've been pushed in through high school to go into doing these online businesses. So you've got online business, you've got IT development, you've got IT software, you've got,
yes,
doesn't matter where you are. Like Australia Post is run by a team of tech people. Well, that's what they're corralled into, those industries.
The irony is that they're going to help with AI and progressing AI as quickly as possible, at which point AI will then take over their jobs and they will be
And that's why, Liz, if you speak to a 30-year-old, how do you grow a tomato? They haven't a clue. And they put into somebody's webinar $75 to learn to grow a tomato. And they put another $75 to learn how to grow a lettuce and another $75 to learn how to grow a cucumber.
Is that an exaggeration? Surely everybody knows.
No. Dead set true. Dead set true.
This is just crazy. And of course, the car issue ties in with the fact that already in Europe, in some countries, they're saying, I think it was in Holland, why don't you share a car? Why don't several families share one car? Because they want to phase out cars because they're not going to let us be free coming out of these concentration camps that are called smart cities that are not smart. They're extremely dumb.
I'm actually looking at getting myself a push bike. Yeah. I used to have push bike. I used to run 25 kilometres 3 times a week. And what I'm doing right now is literally just sucked my life force out. And I just don't have the time. Every minute of my day is taken with somebody somewhere, doing something. And by the time I get to bed, it's almost like I don't even want to speak to another person for like a month. But I can't. The next day, 7 o'clock, bang, here we go. and I'm up I don't go to bed till, I don't know, I do at least a minimum of 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then bang, off we get again. And there's only one of me. And God, I wish I had more of me. And if there's anybody out there who wants to be another Bronwyn Holm, please come and see me.
Bron, you're amazing. And from New Zealand, if we can do more of these, they become a library of your work. And please, can people share these out wherever you can, these interviews. Let's talk about these other people that we could combine with and interview.